Hey guys, I had a little bit of a Sephora haul that includes some of the new Rare Beauty makeup, the Natasha Denona Glam palette. That's why my eyes don't match right now. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. So let's go ahead and get into some of the things that I hauled, and then we will put on this makeup, see how it applies and how it wears throughout the day. I got several of the Rare Beauty makeup items. I got the sponge, the foundation, I got the concealer, the highlighter, two of the blushes, one in the dewy finish and one in the matte finish, and I got the lip cream. I really like the price point of this line and the fact that, she created it to where all the products open really easily for, those that have certain conditions, those that are getting older, things like that. So I definitely wanted to try it out, see how it works for my skin type and that kind of thing, the way I do. So I also have on the Natasha Denona Glam palette that is new. So I kind of wanted to see if you could get a variety of looks from it, what kind of looks you could get from it, just for all of those of you out there that, aren't beauty gurus, aren't YouTubers, if it's easy to use. So that's what we're talking about with this. Way has the new Byredo Mojave Ghost Super Dry Shampoo. Love the perfume, had to try this super dry shampoo. So I'll be giving a verdict on this sometime soon. I also picked up the Moroccan Oil Curl Defining Cream, a small size. I've never tried this. Let me know down below if you have. I've been trying to work with my, natural texture some. So I wanted to see if this would help me with that. I picked up the Patrick Ta Double Take Cream and Powder Blush in the shade Do We Know Her. I'm not going to be using this today because I'm using the Rare Beauty blush, but I will be using this at some point. I can't wait to try it because it's something that's a little bit different. It's got the cream blush here and then the powder blush, and they just supposedly go together really beautifully. I'm on the quest for long-wearing lip products that don't dry out your lips. This is a hunt that I am just constantly on lately. So I also picked up this YSL Water Lip Stain. I think that's what it's called. This is in the shade 610. I have worn this a couple of times. It's a little bit different from other products that I have. I will be talking about this in my monthly faves and fails, along with these two Chanel Le Rouge Duos. I think that's the official name of these. I'm bringing that up from memory. I got Timeless Beige and Burning Red, I think. I have thoughts on these. Stay tuned for my monthly favorites. And this is the new Charlotte Tilbury Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotize palette. I really like this color story. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of video to put this in. So this will be tried very soon. I had to just let you guys know I have it. I'm anxious to try it. I really think it's pretty and very, very wearable. And I like the formula in these limited edition palettes a lot. So I will be trying this soon as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started and apply this foundation, the concealer, the blush, the eyes, all that good stuff. I'm gonna start out by putting about a half of a pea size amount of my usual primer on this side of my face, and I'm not gonna put primer on this side. I like to test foundations out for the first time using my regular primer that I know usually works well with most foundations, and that's the Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. And since I usually use a pea size amount for my entire face, I'm just going to use a half of that for half of my face and just massage it in nicely and let it sink in for, I guess, about a minute before I put on my foundation. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and put my Hourglass Veil eyeshadow primer on my eyelids just to give that face primer some time to sink in. And I only need a teeny tiny amount of this. Now I did get the Rare Beauty sponge. It's around the same size when it's dry, but you just notice it's a little bit firmer and it does have just a lot more porosity to it. It swells up nicely when it gets wet and it's just not quite as soft. So I'm just anxious to see how this blends things out. They do say to shake up the foundation really well before you apply it. Now I first placed my order for the shade 260. I can't remember if it was N or W. I think it was N, and it was just much too peachy orange and dark. So I went to the store to exchange it, and I was matched to shade 210N, which I thought might be too light. We're going to see today. That's the shade that I have here. But the shade 220 was a little bit too cool, and the shade 230 was a little bit too yellow. So we're just gonna see if 210 works. This has a doe foot applicator And it is kind of a very liquidy consistency, so you want to be careful when you open it and hold it upright. I definitely wouldn't tilt it because you could make a mess. Okay, I'm going to apply it to the primer side first and just apply a few dots at a time and blend them out. I think the shade match looks pretty good. The sponge actually feels really good when you hold it in your hand, and it doesn't seem to be absorbing a lot of the product. So the sponge actually seems to be blending in pretty well. It's not, you know, leaving anything too streaky. I am going to apply a little bit more. I don't think I applied enough. I'm not one that likes full coverage foundation. I do feel like I am getting a few little kind of uneven looking areas. I'm going to try my sponge and see if it does it a little bit better. I usually try sponges first thing. I might try a brush on this side. I feel like this blends in very quickly and easily, so using a brush or your fingers shouldn't be a problem. It feels really good and lightweight on the skin. I definitely like a traditional sponge better. I do like the shape of that sponge a lot though. Yeah, those streaks just completely went away on my nose when I used a regular sponge. On the side without primer, I'm going to go in with a foundation brush and we'll see how this blends out. Now, when I use a brush, I do typically even it out with a sponge because it helps get rid of streaks, and it did blend out beautifully with a brush. I do feel like this looks a little bit too light. I just feel like the shades that were my depth weren't quite my tone. So I am going to need to deepen this up with bronzer. Okay, I don't put foundation underneath my eyes. You can see here's my circles. This one is worse than this one. I'm putting a little bit of corrector underneath this eye just to counteract those undertones. I usually do that underneath all of my concealers, but because I want to see exactly how well this concealer conceals, we'll see what we get with corrector and without. I have the shade 200C for the corrector. 210 was just a little bit too warm. I prefer a cooler toned corrector. I do want to mention how much I love the lids on these. I do feel like they're very easy to open, which was her intention for these. And I feel like, you know, if you have certain conditions, if you're getting older, the easier things are to open, the better. Okay, so this is the side without corrector. I'm just going to go ahead and go in and use my sponge. Oh, I had like a dry patch of skin. It was catching on, so I need to go in with another layer because I kind of wiped that away. I think it conceals okay without a corrector. It's not the most full coverage concealer I've ever used without a corrector. Of course, I'm not one, again, to use a concealer without a corrector because you can see those undertones peeking through, and I do think that you can see that. So let's use it on the side with the corrector. It does blend out really, really easily. It doesn't stick to any one spot. I'm anxious to see how this wears through the day, if it accentuates any texture or wrinkles or makes me look older as the day goes on. Okay, so here's what we have. Here's what we have on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and set my face with a light layer of powder, although I will say this really doesn't feel tacky at all. But because I have oily combination skin, I always set my foundations. This gives kind of a luminous finish. It is settling into my forehead crease expression line a little bit, and I do feel like I'm going to need to set that down or it's going to continue to get a little bit accentuated as the day goes on. And I always crease with my concealers right underneath my eyes, and I am creasing now, so I'm just going to go ahead and take care of this. I'm going to go ahead and put my bronzer on because I don't have a new bronzer, and then we're going to go in with the liquid blushes, the liquid highlighter, and some other products. I am bronzing my whole face because the foundation is significantly lighter than my neck. So that's why you'll see me just kind of going all over everywhere, heavier in some areas and not in others. I have two shades in the liquid blush. I have Joy in the dewy finish and Grace in the matte finish. I'm really excited to try this dewy finish because it just seems different than anything I've tried before. And the true test to me with a liquid blush is to see how it applies over powder products, because the really good ones apply really well and don't disturb what's underneath if you've already set your makeup. Now, I've seen a lot of people go a little bit heavy with these liquid blushes. I'm gonna apply this the same as I always do my liquid blushes, dot it on the back of the hand, and then just take my brush in it and swirl it around until the product's almost dry, but not quite, and then go in on my cheeks, because I find this is the most foolproof way for me to apply liquid blush. And then it ensures that you just don't go in too heavy. There's a lot of pigment in this blush. I feel like on screen it looks like I have this big line of demarcation and it looks really heavy. In person, it really doesn't. You can see a little bit of a dewy effect, but it's not too much. It's a really nice natural look. No matter how you apply this, you have to be careful. I mean, these are pretty pigmented. I have more of a shadow over here too, so it just always looks like I have more. But I mean, that little bit that I had on the back of my hand still left this much pigment with the amount that it put on my cheeks. So just be careful. I love the shade. I absolutely love it. I hope it goes with what the heck I'm putting on my eyes, because I think we're going cool today. So we'll see how this works. But maybe this highlighter will help. I'm using the shade Mesmerize. It looks really, really pretty. Just kind of a rosy shade. I'm gonna just tap literally one dot. I'm gonna blend this out with my finger and just tapping this out. I really like to use a sponge with liquid highlighters because I feel like it helps them blend out more evenly. This set really quickly and kind of created a little stripe, so we're gonna have to work with it a little bit. Okay, I was able to blend it out, but you do have to work fast and blend it out quickly. Okay, so even having done that, I don't feel like it really took off any product from the face, even after I kind of, blended it in. I would say to apply it before you put on any powder, or, if you don't wear powder at all, or just know that you need to blend it out really, really quickly. But I don't think even after, rubbing it in, that it disturbed anything underneath. And it looks really subtle. I don't even know if you can see that on camera. It's a very natural looking highlight, which I personally like. Okay, so I'm going in with the Natasha Denona Glam palette. I do think this is a great palette for those of you who want that neutral palette that will give you glam looks, or you can get everyday looks. And for those of you who really don't want to have to think about placement, because that's how it's labeled. It's different than other palettes. It's not labeled with creative shade names. It's really just labeled, how you're going to do things. Center eyelid, outer eyelid, inner corner, crease, transition, blend, smoke, that kind of thing. So I'm going to put a little diagram on the screen and just star the shades that I'm using as I use them. And in this video, I'm going to do two different eyes just to give two different looks. Although my brushes may look like they're dirty, the pigment has been cleaned off with my color switch, so I'm not going in with any random pigment on my brushes. But let's go ahead and get into eye number one. I'm just taking this crease shade in and above the crease and along the lower lash line and kind of extending that lower lash line to meet where I put it in the crease. Now I'm taking smoke in the very outer third and just almost kind of winging it out the same angle the lower lash line goes, just kind of taking it along the lower lash line and kind of loosely winging it up, nothing precise at all. I'm just giving a lift with it. And I'm not being precise because I am going to put something in this outer area. I'm taking this center eyelid shade and placing it on the center eyelid. And I'm taking this outer eyelid shade and also placing that on the outer eyelid with my finger, kind of pressing it on that outer third. Next, I'm taking this inner corner shade and placing it on the inner corner. I'm just taking that crease shade up, blending those shades out with it. And I'm taking that shade that says transition onto the brow bone. I'm actually going to take a combination of the crease and blend shade and put that in that transition area. I just think that's going to work a little bit better for my particular skin tone. I need a little bit of warmth in that transition area, and I'm just going to drag that below the lash line. I'm going to take the shade that says lash line and tap that off really, really well and just extend my lower lash line a bit and wiggle this right above my lash line, just the outer third. And then I'm going to fill in where those two lines meet. It's almost a straight little line here. And that just gives me kind of a smudgy little mini wing. Nothing that's too complicated. Just looks a little more finished than not doing anything at the lash line. Now let's see if this fallout dusts away pretty easily. Yeah. All right, let's do the other eye and then I will do mascara. We're gonna go a little bit warmer on this side and take the blend shade in and above the crease as just the transition shade. I'm also gonna take it on the lower lash line. I like the smoke shade because it is pretty neutral no matter what look you want to go with at giving you a good smoked out look. I mean, you could use any of these center eyelid shades and the smoke shade is just going to create a really, really pretty look with it. I'm going to take this on the lower lash line as well. Next, I'm going in on the outer eyelid with that deeper shade. I might top that with my finger just to give a little bit more pigment. I'm going to go ahead and go in on the inner corner with that inner corner shade. Oh, that is really, really pretty. I like that shade. And I'm going to go in the center with this center shade. So I'm taking a combination of this inner corner and brow bone and putting this on the brow bone. I don't know. I think it might give kind of an ethereal look. I'm going to put it in the inner corner too. Yeah, I mean, I think it did the job. I'm going to kind of do the same thing with lash line, just extending that lower lash line up from the outer corner, kind of wiggling it along the lash line from the outer third down to meet that line, and then going straight across to the center of the eye. I've shown this technique in several videos. I will link you to it. It's very, very easy. And you don't have to be precise. You can use kind of a smudgy brush to do it. It's just kind of an easy way to give a little bit of lift if your eyes are kind of downturned a little bit. And you can take it out as far as you want or keep it kind of close to the eye. All right, I'm gonna put on mascara and come right back and we will talk lips. So I really wanted to try the Lip Souffle Matte Cream just for the longevity and the comfort factor. There's really not a nude shade to try. The closest thing that I could find was the shade Courage, which is described as a nude mauve or a mauve nude, but it's really a mauve. I think it's kind of a deep mauve. We're gonna see right now. This does feel very light and whipped, and it's not as deep as it appears that it would be. It's very comfortable on the lips. I am anxious to see how this is going to wear throughout the day. I do love how this makeup is looking. I feel like my makeup just looks really nice and natural. Nothing looks heavy. I feel like I look put together, you know, aside from the non-matching eyes. This is what we have, and we're gonna see how everything wears throughout the day, how long it lasts, if it lasts. I will be changing the eyes because I have to get on a couple of video calls later and I really don't want to have two different eyes, but that won't affect anything with the wear of the eyes. Everything else will stay the same. So let's reconvene later and I will show you how things are looking. Okay, so it's been about 6.5 or 7 hours. I'm in very harsh lighting, so take that into consideration. But I did want to update you on this because I did end up using this after I filmed. So this has been in my hair for a while and I feel like it worked really, really well. It does have a really nice scent to it, kind of a unisex scent. I'll give more of an update in my monthly favorites, but I did enjoy it today. The concealer has worn well. I mean, I just have my normal texture underneath my eyes, but I don't feel like anything bad has been accentuated. Now, as for the foundation, it has gotten a little bit shiny, but I haven't touched up at all today. I do feel like you can see my pores more now than you could earlier, and it has faded around this area, which can happen in the climate I'm in. I'm in a really hot and humid area. Also, it did settle into my forehead wrinkle right there. You can just see it kind of gathered in that spot. I don't feel like the blush or the highlight faded at all. I feel like they look good. Now the lip, it felt kind of nice and light and whipped for maybe an hour or so, and then it started just feeling like my natural lips. The pigment stayed on my lips, kind of looking like a stain for a while, even through eating, but it wasn't super moisturizing. I mean, I haven't put anything else on my lips, and I feel like you can still see more of a lip line than if my lips were just naked, but my lips feel dry at this point. I will have a more thorough update in my monthly favorites, but you know, this is what we have for first impression. Loving the eyeshadow. I did even it out, but it has lasted very nicely, no fallout. I just did a video on drugstore products that are as good as high-end products. If you haven't seen that, I'll link it here for you. And if you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my updates of these products, as well as other products that are favorites and fails later on in the month. I'll see you guys later. Thanks. Bye.